Hello there, good morning and welcome to this, the WP Builds weekly WordPress newsletter. This is number 83. It covers the WordPress news for the week commencing the 30th of September 2019 and it was published on Monday the 7th of October 2019. My name's Nathan Wrigley from pictureandword.co.uk, a small web development agency based in the north of England. And a few bits of housekeeping before we begin. Head over to wpbuilds.com/subscribe, and there you'll find a whole bunch of ways of keeping in touch with what we do at WP Builds. A couple of newsletters to sign up to. The grey box, the one on the left, if you're on a desktop, is to sign up to get alerted about this, the Monday news and the Thursday podcast. The one on the right, which is blue, says subscribe to the WP Builds deals updates. Now, this is one that I could strongly recommend in the run-up to Black Friday and so on, because all that I'm going to do is send you a very simple, plain text email as soon as I hear about a WordPress deal, and obviously there'll be lots of those coming down the pipe very, very soon. On that page, you'll also be able to subscribe to us on your favourite podcast player, join over 2,250 WordPresses in our Facebook group, and also our YouTube channel as well. So there we go, wpbuilds.com/subscribe. Head over to the deals page, wpbuilds.com/deals, and you'll find a whole bunch of WordPress deals. It is a bit like Black Friday, but every day of the week. So if you're in the market for something, go check that out. And last but by no means least, wpbuilds.com/advertise if you would like to get your product or service in front of a very specific WordPress audience, a bit like Kinsta did. Are you tired of unreliable or slow hosting? If so, check out Kinsta, who takes managed WordPress hosting to the next level. Powered by the Google Cloud Platform, all their plans include PHP 7, SSH and 24/7 expert support. And you can migrate today for free at kinsta.com. And we do thank Kinsta for supporting the WP Builds podcast. Okay, let's get stuck into the news for this week. Every week we divide our news up into different sections, and the first section is always entitled WordPress Core, and the first piece under WordPress Core is entitled WordPress 5.3 Beta 2. It's on wordpress.org, and it is just to say that we have migrated over to Beta 2. There are very few things worthy of mention. Some highlights include that there is more work being done on the block editor. There have been some bugs which have been squashed on the default 2020 theme, which is going to ship with 5.3. And there's also some accessibility bug fixes and enhancements on the interface changes introduced in 5.3 Beta 1. They've also adding support for rel equals UGC, which is user-generated content, because as I mentioned in the news a few weeks ago, Google has added this as a possibility, an attribute value. So for things like comments and so on, this would be perfect. So there we go, some nice updates in WordPress 5.3 Beta 2. The next piece is over on WP Tavern, and it's entitled Preparing Themes for WordPress 5.3. Justin Tadlock is saying that, it's coming around the corner very soon. Hopefully we'll get WordPress 5.3 on November the 12th, and it's going to offer us 12 release cycles of Gutenberg from version 5.4 to version 6.5 over its lifespan. And he's saying that really, if you're a theme developer, you really do need to be looking at the changes that have happened in the block editor, aka Gutenberg, recently, because when 5.3 does ship, it may be that your theme will break in some particular cases. So, for example, he says that WordPress 5.3 introduces new server-side block style functions. This means that theme authors who prefer PHP can now register custom block style variations without writing JavaScript code. He also mentions that some HTML blocks are going to cause breaking changes. It says, despite WordPress's commitment to backwards compatibility over the year, the Gutenberg team hasn't maintained this approach with blocks. Block HTML output in the editor and the front end has changed for some blocks. These changes will break custom style sheets in many cases, and the ones that he points to are the blocks entitled Group, Table and Gallery, and in the testing that Justin's done, he feels that the Gallery block is the most obvious candidate for breaking changes. We've also had some new block classes added. Several new classes are making their way into 5.3. So for example, WordPress is doing away with inline styles for left, right and center text alignment, and they're being moved into your CSS style sheet. And theme authors also need to make sure that they support new classes for the following blocks: heading, paragraph, quote and verse. So that's a nice article by Justin pointing out possible pitfalls for theme developers. The third and final piece under the WordPress Core section is over on make.wordpress.org. It's a fairly technical piece of writing. It's entitled Date Time Component Improves in WordPress 5.3. I'm not going to go into the history of this, but essentially the date time component really has been needing an update because its code dates back to PHP 4, which is quite some time ago. It was retrofitted to work with PHP 5, but essentially there's been a whole load of improvements and unit testing done and so on, and this is going to ship with 5.3. So you'll have the option in version 5.3 of WordPress for unified time zone retrieval, new date localizations, PHP interoperability, and we will be phasing out WP timestamps as well. All right, the next section is entitled Community and covers WordPress community news. And the first piece we've got for you this week is to say that WordCamp US, which is taking place in St. Louis this year, the tickets are now on sale. You can go to 2019.us.wordcamp.org and click on the tickets tab, or /tickets is probably the easiest way to get it. And you can find that they're $50 per ticket. There's going to be over 40 speakers, half a dozen workshops, and a whole load of other amazing stuff going on. I don't know how quickly they traditionally sell out. My guess is that they would go reasonably quickly. And there's also options on that page to offer sponsorship as well. It seems like it was only yesterday that we were talking about the acquisition of StudioPress by WP Engine. Well, it isn't. It's actually 15 months ago that they acquired it. And the founder, Brian Gardner, has announced this week that he is actually going to be stepping down from StudioPress. He's fulfilled his contract with WP Engine, and now it's time for him to do new things. The article that I'm reading from is on WP Tavern, and Justin Tadlock obviously admires Brian really rather a lot, not only for the fact that he kind of was one of the prime movers in the commercialization of the theme business, but also the fact that his themes were so rock solid and used by many people reliably for a decade or more, but also the fact that he didn't really cause any major fuss in his life. He did everything by demonstrating his brilliance with WordPress themes rather than, kind of flash bang PR techniques or anything like that. He also mentions the fact that Brian's biggest regret is that he didn't kind of create a way of recurring the revenue to begin with, rather selling it as a one-time package. And also talks about what he's going to be doing in the future. He's now a jobbing theme developer who is for hire over at the Authentic web design company that he founded. The next article, which is again from WP Tavern, is entitled WordPress Theme Review Team Brings Back Review Shindigs. Apparently there were things called Shindigs in the past. I didn't really know about these, but they're going to be kicked off again. The idea is that we get a whole bunch of people in the same Slack channel at the same time, and they have a concerted effort to fix a bunch of themes all at the same time and do it more quickly, hopefully, as a result of this. The intention apparently is to do this on the first Saturday of every month, and you can find out more by going to this particular page. The intention is also to be able to teach people how to perform these reviews and quickly check for common issues. So if you've never done this before, this might be a perfect time to kind of show up and see if you can be schooled in how to do this quickly and help the theme review team to progress its work. PHP 7.4 is slated to be released in November, very late November 2019. So that means that obviously there'll be some new features to look out for. And again, on WP Tavern, we have an article entitled First Look at PHP 7.4 for WordPress Developers. There is no way that I'm going to try to explain this article, but you can go and see about all of the new features that will be included that are going to affect you if you're a WordPress developer. It's things like typed properties, arrow functions, unpacking inside of arrays, And then he also goes on to describe some of the features which will, of course, be deprecated when 7.4 rolls around. So perhaps go and check the article out for a more in-depth analysis. We normally draw your attention to text-based content, but I'm going to draw your attention to a podcast because this week Matt Mullenweg had a conversation with David Heinemeier Hansson to discuss market share, monopolies and power in the open source communities. It's a very long conversation. It does at various times get a little bit, well, fractious is not the word. You know, they have strong opinions on different sides of the fences, shall we say. And it's really, really well worth listening to. They get into the weeds about all sorts of things, how Matt Mullenweg would like WordPress, for example, to be kind of like the future of the web, the operating system, if you like, of the web. And they disagree on quite a lot, but also they have quite a civil debate. But it's well worth listening if you've got an extra hour. 2 articles this week from Kinsta. The first one is entitled Automatic MySQL Database Optimizations, Self-Healing PHP, GCP Firewall. So if you are a Kinsta user, all of this is going to be happening automatically. You don't need to do anything. But basically, they say that optimizing your database is one of those things that, you know, it gets neglected. It's very rarely something that people are particularly interested in, but it is a good thing to do. So Kinsta have decided to implement a new system which automatically kind of fine-tunes your MySQL database settings based on the needs of your website. This optimization will run once per week, and hopefully it will ensure MariaDB performance is a little bit better. If the process somehow detects that something has gone wrong, then it will send a notice to their sysadmin team so that they can fix it themselves, which is a manual thing. Also, in the past, if things went wrong with your PHP, you could click something in their admin panel and restart it, and that's great, but what if you didn't know it had gone down? Well, now it will try to restart itself automatically. They're calling this self-healing PHP. And should something fail, again, you will automatically get a sysadmin log which will be sent to their team so that they will hopefully, again, manually fix it. And also, instead of being behind a third-party firewall, they are now going to be using Google Cloud Platform Firewall. They are, of course, Kinsta, that is to say, are based on the Google Cloud Platform, and now they're going to be using the Google Cloud Platform Firewall, which kind of, I suppose, makes sense. You've also got one other notable option, I think, which is now you can actually deploy WordFence into a Kinsta website. I think previously it was a disallowed plugin on their network, and now it is allowed. The other thing to mention is that they are increasing their amount of SSD storage on all plans. So, for example, the starter plan has doubled from 5 gigabytes to 10 gigabytes. The Pro plan has gone from 10 to 20, and all of the business plans have gone up as well. So again, that's quite nice. It should be added already automatically into your dashboard if you're a Kinsta user. The last piece in the community section is actually a Twitter feed. It's a Twitter moment, and it's by Editor's Kit, and it's just called Gutenberg Tips. And essentially, if you click on the link and maybe bookmark it, it's just a series of very short little animated GIF tutorials about how to achieve things in Gutenberg that you maybe didn't know was possible. I presume that Jeffrey's going to be adding to this over time, because at the moment there's quite a few, but because of the way it's organized, obviously if you were to follow this, you would have the ability to get this stuff automatically, which is really nice. Right, let's move on to plugins and themes. That's our next section. First one we've got for you today is from WPM U Dev. They have a optimization and caching solution called Hummingbird, and Hummingbird 2.1 has just been released. The notable features are that now uptime notifications can be set to go out to multiple users. So let's say, for example, that if your site goes down, previously it would just go to the site admin, whereas now you can specify any number of people who should be notified. I can imagine that's being quite useful. They're also going to be serving compressed versions of cached files. It says in the past we usually served compressed versions of files already cached. In most cases, the web server would send out the compressed version, but in some rare cases, compression is not enabled on the server side. So what this means is if your server doesn't support gzip compression, then Hummingbird will just take care of that by itself, which is quite a nice update. You're also going to have the option to skip page caching on mobile devices. It would appear that some users requested this. They would like the mobile version of a site to not be cached, and you can tick a box so that doesn't happen. And also you can now clear the cache at set intervals. So for example, you could say every 10 hours, let's just clear the cache and empty it out and we can begin again. And there's also preload page caching. So rather than the site having to find a visitor, shall we say, somebody comes to your site and uses a page, and then obviously the cache is created. It's now going to pre-create those caches all by itself, whether people are visiting or not. And they've also got some new integrations: SiteGround, WP Engine, OP Cache, Varnish, Divi, WP Hide and Security Enhancer, as well as IE11 compatibility. If you are a user of BuddyPress, then it might interest you to know that BuddyPress 5.0 is around the corner, and WP Tavern has an article entitled BuddyPress 5.0 introduces BP REST API, paving the way for blocks. It's going to be called Lagusto, and it was released this week, and it has a new REST API, new invitations API, and also they're going to be putting some of their information, BuddyPress info, on the site health screen should that be needed. There's full documentation for the REST API, and it includes endpoints for members, groups, activities, private messages, screen notifications and extended profiles. And I suppose of note is the fact that this means that blocks are also going to be coming to BuddyPress. On the article you can see an image of an example block. So hopefully as 5 becomes 5.1 and 5.2 and so on, we'll get more and more of these blocks, so you'll be able to integrate BuddyPress more seamlessly into the block editor. If you've been using a plugin called EditFlow, then you might need to know that Automatic has decided to discontinue using it. EditFlow, which is a modular editorial plugin, it enables collaboration inside the WordPress admin. Well, it's now going to be put to one side. It hasn't been updated apparently for 9 months, and according to this article on WP Tavern, there was a period in time where it wasn't updated for over 2 years. So some frustrated people who are using it, there's 10,000 installs using it at the moment, reached out and said, look, can we find out what the definitive status of this is? And a representative from Automatic said that the company will no longer be editing it. It is, however, listed as a WP.com VIP plugin, and so I'm guessing that it's going to be continuing in its support over on that platform. But anyway, it's gone. It would appear that a good alternative to this is a plugin called WordPress. So if you are using EditFlow, you might want to go and check out WordPress instead. A very quick one: if you like to put sliders on your WordPress websites, Smart Slider 3 would seem like a good option. They have released a new template called Portfolio Categories, and you can see it by clicking on the link. It looks really nice. It's very, very minimal. It occupies the whole screen and slides the entire screen from left to right with a clear indication that there are other objects to the left and right to be explored. And I really like the look of it. So there you go. Check that out. The next section is about deals, and I've got a couple of things that I've spotted this week on the internet which are available. The first one, I really don't know how to pronounce this, but it's an Elementor add-on pack deal. It's called Piotnet, I think, Piotnet, and it's a whole series of add-ons for Elementor. And when I say a whole series, I do mean rather a lot. You can go and click on the link in the show notes and you can check it out. And they are offering a lifetime package at the moment for $70, which is akin to their old pricing. So it's considerably cheaper than it will be in a little while. So maybe go and check that out if you're an Elementor user. And the other one is a company called Yay Images, which is a stock image finding service, and you get all of the usual capabilities. If you download it through their platform, then you are entitled to use it in any which way you choose. They have good search feature, it turns out. I quite like the capability to search for things like red cars, and it seems to return pretty good results. It's on AppSumo at the minute, $59 if you want 1,000 images, and you have the capability to download those at any point in the future. So it's not limited in terms of time, but it's $59 per 1,000 if you want to go and grab that from AppSumo. 3 articles linked this week. I'm not going to go into the details in the security section simply because the details are often too difficult to describe in a very short little podcast like this. But here we go. WebArcs. I've got an article entitled WordPress Theme Editor Plugin, Multiple Vulnerabilities. So if you're using Theme Editor, go and check that out. iThemes do their bi-monthly roundup of a whole bunch of plugins, and I like this because of the fact that they include little thumbnails of all the plugins that they found problems with, so you can easily just scroll through the article and stop. Oh, I recognize that logo. I probably should read that one. And then finally, the Securi website has an article entitled A New Wave of Buggy WordPress Infections, and it says, we've been following an ongoing malware campaign for the past couple of years now. This campaign is renowned for its prompt addition of exploits for newly discovered WordPress theme and plugin vulnerabilities. And it says that every other week things are being added. So maybe go and check that one out. It gives examples of the latest injections, but I cannot possibly read it out. It's just a bunch of numbers. So yeah, anyway, go and check that one out. The shamelessly self-promotional WP Build section. 2 things that we did this week. The first was that we released a podcast over on wpbuilds.com called Spinning Up a WordPress Optimized Server in Minutes with SpinUp WP. So this is Brad Tuzenard from Delicious Brains, and they've got this amazing capability called SpinUp WP, and the idea is that you basically click a few buttons and it allows you to quickly spin up a server. It's completely specific to WordPress, bespoke admin panel, and so on and so forth. And he talks about why this is a good idea, why he built it, and why you might like to check it out. And the other thing that we did was we did a WP Builds UI UX review. Well, I say we did. Peach and Eri came on. We did it live on Facebook and YouTube, and there was quite a lot of nice commentary going on at the time. Very, very good natured, these events. They're lovely, the live events. So yeah, if you're into website UI and UX, we went through 3.5 sites. We're going to pick up where we left off with the final website, but it's really nice. And it's just nice to get a different perspective on why Peach thinks that certain things work and don't work. And it may be that you agree or disagree, but it's nice to get a different perspective. I keep bludgeoning this to death. I'm going to keep doing it, I think. It's the jobs section. Only we have no jobs. I'm hoping that if I just keep saying this, people will eventually twig on to the fact that I would like to put some jobs into this news section and send me some jobs. So if you've got any, if you know of any, please forward them to me. You can use the contact form on the website, and I will try to get them out in front of a wide audience. Right, we're getting towards the end now. The very last section is always entitled Not WordPress but Useful Anyway. First piece is over on the Bloomberg.com website entitled Facebook WhatsApp will have to share messages with UK. Social media platforms based in the US, people like Facebook, WhatsApp and so on, are going to be forced to share users' encrypted messages with British police under a new treaty which is going to be signed within the next month. It will compel social media firms to share information and to support the investigation of suspected criminals. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this is useful in the sense that if it's done, if the encryption is done right, and certainly in the case of WhatsApp, I know that I'm pretty sure they're using the Signal protocol, in which case it's bulletproof at the moment. I'm not sure what this passing on of encrypted information will achieve other than to have it. Maybe they're hoping that they can at some point in the future access it. I'm not entirely sure. But obviously this is going to cause great alarm. If you create a backdoor for one person, well then you create a backdoor for everybody. And presumably at some point in the future, we will discover this to our cost. Don't know where you stand on the whole privacy side of things. But anyway, this is now a thing, which is quite new. Podcasters rejoice. If you are a Spotify user, you can now add your podcasts to your playlists. So this is quite nice. So I'm not a Spotify user, so I'm not really sure about how the UI works, but now you'll be able to add specific podcasts and podcast episodes into playlists. So I presume you'll now be able to model up songs and the songs that you want to hear with podcast episodes that you want to hear. And I'm assuming that until now that those two things were segregated from one another, but now you will. So what can I say? Stick WP Builds right in your favorite playlist. Go and do it right away. The last thing that I've got for you this week is over on the Search Engine Journal. It's entitled Google Announces New Ways to Hide Personal Activity, including Incognito Mode in Maps. Lots of people are, obviously, rightly I think, kind of slightly concerned that giant tech companies like Facebook and like Google are able to amass lots of data. I think Google has made a real concerted effort to make it possible to expunge what they have on you, should you make the effort to go and find the menus, which are probably buried within menus. But now they're making all of this a little bit easier. So for example, now you can use an incognito mode in Maps. So let's say, for example, you do not wish for Google to record to your map timeline, if you like, where you have been and what mapping you've been doing. Well, you can now enable that so that it just simply doesn't track what you're doing with the maps. You can also auto delete your YouTube activity. Quite why you would want to do that is anybody's guess, but there you go. You can select so that it is auto-deleted. It could be like a 3-month or an 18-month period, so every 3 months it'll expunge it, or every 18 months, or you can just say until it's manually deleted. And finally, you can also now tell the Google Assistant that you want it to destroy things that you've said to it. So they give an example of saying the Google trigger word, delete the last thing I said to you, or again, the Google trigger word, delete the things that I said to you last week, all of which seem like really useful things for Google to be adding in. And I think this is a very laudable thing that they're doing. The WP Builds newsletter was brought to you today by Kinsta. Kinsta takes managed WordPress hosting to the next level. Powered by the Google Cloud Platform, your site is secured like Fort Knox and runs on speed-obsessive architecture. You get access to the latest software and developer tools such as PHP 7, SSH and staging environments. And the best part, their expert team of WordPress engineers are available 24/7 if you need help. So you can migrate today for free at kinsta.com. Okay, that's all I've got for you this week. Please join us again next week for the new WordPress Weekly News, which will cover the week that we're about to begin. Join us on Thursday when we'll be having our regular podcast. It's very likely to be a discussion episode between David and I, but also come back on this day, this Monday, live at 2 p.m. UK time in the WP Builds Facebook group. Actually, I prefer it, if you go now to wpbuilds.com/live, simply for the live episodes. I'm not trying to dissuade anybody from going to the Facebook group, but just for the live episodes at 2 p.m. UK time, go to wpbuilds.com/live, because there you can access live comments, which we used pretty much for the first time last week, and it was great fun watching the comments come in. Okay, I hope that you found something useful in all of that. Bye-bye for now.